It is that time of year again. Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, whichever you want to participate in, we've got you covered at Spanish con Salsa. Just go to our website to get once in a year discounts on our signature Spanish language programs, as well as some other programs from our partners. Just go to learnspanishconsalsa.com to take advantage of our Black Friday sale this year. Again, that's learnspanishconsalsa.com. All sales shut down this Tuesday, November 30th, so make sure you do not miss these discounts.
Bienvenidos! Welcome to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast, the show for Spanish learners that love music, travel, and culture. Close your grammar textbooks, shut down the language apps, and open your ears to how Spanish is spoken in the real world. Let us show you how to go from beginner to bilingual. Here is your host, certified language coach, Tamara Marie.
Hola, bienvenidos al episodio 141. Welcome to episode 141 of the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about stress. And we're going to answer the question, is stress actually killing your language learning progress? Is it something that's actually stopping you from getting fluent in Spanish as quickly as you would like? And this topic really came out of several conversations with our community, as well as those of you who are familiar with the Sisters Only Language Summit that we've been having virtually really throughout since COVID began. We started having these virtual events. And the topic really came up as we were discussing planning for the next event, that a lot of people are stressed out about a lot of things. And that also shows up in the language learning process. So I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about on the podcast, to sort of talk about how you can gauge and see, is this really a problem for you? And if so, of course, what you can actually do about it. Now, I did actually put out a poll in our Facebook group to ask a question: what stresses you out the most about learning Spanish? So I thought it would be good to start there and to see if you didn't get a chance to participate in the poll, to see if some of these may resonate with you as well. Because honestly, you might think that you're the only one sort of going through a specific issue, but you might be surprised to find out that there are lots of other people that face the same stress as you do, even if you look up to them as being somewhat successful language learners or polyglots or all these things. This issue of stress comes up for a lot of people, and really no one is immune to it. So I just want to share with you some of the answers that were shared within our community when I asked the question, what stresses you out the most about speaking Spanish? So some people are just completely overwhelmed and said all of it. Some people specifically mentioned the speed at which people talk. So really listening to Spanish, I guess more of understanding when you're spoken to in Spanish. That came up as a very, very stressful situation to be in for several people. And that answer actually got upvoted a number of times as well. Some people talked about grammar. So various parts of verb conjugation, or just, adjectives, just different things about the mechanics and structure of the language. This one I like. Michelle Vera said, brain farts, where everything I know just disappears and I fumble, just like I just did, over a very awkward conversation. So a lot of people talked about this idea of, really being in conversation, being stressed out by being able to understand the different types of accents that they're listening to, how quickly people talk, being able to just keep up in general, right? And being able to respond effectively. And then overall, this fear of having a mental block, not saying something correctly, and really, being judged, right? Because at the heart of all of this is this idea that if somehow we don't get it perfect, we will be judged, and that stresses us out. So those were just some of the things that came up when I asked the question. And I do think that, if you are a language learner, if you've been learning Spanish for any length of time, that some of these thoughts and some of these things have crossed your mind before and have stressed you out. And I can even speak for myself. I know my experience with learning Spanish as well as Portuguese and now Arabic as well. Some of these things are a little bit nerve-wracking. It's like that time when you schedule a lesson and you know that you're going to have to log on and get on a Zoom call or Skype or whatever it is, and you have a live session and you completely freak out because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to actually have to say something. They're going to be talking in Spanish. Am I going to understand what they're saying? And then you might log on late or not log on at all or try to postpone the lesson or cancel it, all because you're stressed out at the idea of even having that experience of talking to a native speaker. So if any of that sounds familiar, and again, if it does, I say this a lot on the podcast, but congratulations, felicidades, it just means that you're human. If any of this sounds familiar, I want to talk about how we can begin to tackle stress and really what is stress, because I think a lot of times we throw around this word, but we're not exactly sure what it means. And actually, a little bit of stress can actually be good for us. That's why we set deadlines for our goals. That's why we remember those times we made an awkward mistake or when someone called on us and we didn't know the answer. Because this type of stress really just alerts our brains to pay close attention and hold on to that information, because your brain is interested in self-preservation, right? It's interested in keeping you going for as long as possible. So if there's something that comes to your attention and is in focus and it's really standing out to you, that does cause a little bit of stress, but that stress actually does help us remember things. So a little bit of stress can be good. In fact, the stress hormone, cortisol, which you may have heard this before, is actually meant to help us become more alert and to pay closer attention. And in fact, cortisol is highest when we wake up in the morning. If our sleep patterns are normal, we should get a boost of cortisol. That's what kind of tells us get up, right? You've been sleeping long enough. It's time to get up, spring into action. So a little bit of stress is good. Cortisol isn't all bad, but too much stress can ramp up our levels of cortisol to be too high to the point that we're in this constant state of fight, flight, or freeze. And when that part of our brains are lit up all the time, it really can make it impossible for us to learn anything. And it also interferes with our sleep. And sleep is super important for us getting all of those things that we learned during the day, all of our experiences, consolidated into our long-term memory. So too much stress is bad. A little bit of stress is actually quite normal and natural and good. But what we have to learn is how do we use those little stresses that we have in the language learning process and actually